And welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to get into episode 2 of volume 12 of my Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac scrapbooks. If you saw my first episode on volume 12, you saw the small portion of greatest hits era that I had of Fleetwood Mac, and the rest of this volume is dedicated to the other side of the mirror. If you thought that Tango in the Night was special to me, you can only imagine how special Other Side of the Mirror is to me, as that is the first time that I saw Stevie live solo. So that was kind of a big deal. And funny enough, I think you'll be seeing this video like on the 20-something of October. I'm not entirely sure, but the 17th of October was the anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake, which took place October 17th, 1989 in the Santa Cruz, San Francisco area. And it was a very, very large earthquake. And the Stevie show was scheduled for, I don't know, it seems to me like the 20th or 21st or something like that of October. And it seems like Stevie Nicks was elsewhere in the Bay Area, because the show I was going to see, I think, was in gosh, where was it? I think it must have been San Jose, and she was in something like that, or Sacramento, something. Anyway, all I know is that she postponed a couple shows. And by the time, but it was only by a few days, or she ended up making it to the show. Maybe she didn't postpone it. And memory's that good, because, it's that many years ago. And all I do know is that in Santa Cruz, California, if anybody are familiar with California or that area at all, you have to drive over Highway 17, which is a very windy and very dangerous road, even for the best drivers. And of course, we're still having aftershocks and such. So they closed Highway 17 because it's on, it's going through the hills. So a lot of the rocks and dirt and debris was still coming down with all the aftershocks. So we ended up having to take like a back road to go to the concert, and which was kind of just as dangerous, but at least it was wider and such. I still wasn't driving yet, and I was able to convince my father to let a same age as me friend borrow his car and drive, in this aftershock, type of situation in the Bay Area to the Stevie Nicks concert, which was just, when I look back, I'm so amazed and so thankful to all my parents did for me. But that was kind of a stretch for him. Anyway, that was just kind of a big deal. But seeing Stevie live by herself, it was one thing to see Fleetwood Mac in 1987, but to see Stevie in 1989 was just, phenomenal. She looked amazing. It's her show, it's her gig, all her songs. So it's just, holds another special place in my heart, much like 87. All eras hold a special place in my heart, but when I was kind of involved with them, or cognizant of going to shows or collecting at the time, etc., it's just really an amazing time. So, without further ado, no long box. Oddly enough, I was double checking that. Let me triple check that. No long box, but I did have somebody had just made me a copy eons ago. This is just like paper, but it was a really nice copy of the back cover, right? Is this the insert or the back cover? Oh my goodness, of Other Side of the Mirror. And I just always loved this. I think this was always, we'd had this conversation, right, with the records, but I just definitely always liked this picture better than what was used as the cover for Other Side of the Mirror. This just has such a whimsical, probably using my exact words that I used about that, but and then this was a article from, this one is 1991, so this is clearly not supposed to be here. Good job, Anita. Old page. Cut up from inside the record, but this was a review for the 1991 show. Not good. So, yeah, I'll have to revisit that, or definitely make sure, this could be a copy. Maybe I just made an error, and need to pull that out when I hit the 1991 stuff. But anyway, here's this nice article. I think I just saw it at the time and took it for being Other Side of the Mirror, because that picture was used so much in that. But it's actually a nice article. I've told you that stuff that gets spoken about in the Bay Area, Stevie in the Bay Area, most people that did write-ups on her, like Joel Sullivan and such like that, were just such dicks about her. And, this was kind of this going into time space, she's kind of got a get out of jail free card, if you will, because it was all of her greatest hits, and so people were really reminiscing. But between 1989 and Street Angel, of course, they were just especially brutal with Stevie. And it just seems like this was one of the better articles with and about Stevie. On that note, just talking about what I was talking about, the shows that Stevie was doing were at the Greek Theater, or some of them were October 23rd and 24th. And it says Pacific Amphitheater, which, to be honest with you, I don't really know where that is, or I don't remember. Maybe it's called something else, but that was October 14th. So maybe that would have been before the earthquake. So, but here's, something from the Bay Area. Oh no, this is LA Times, 8/13/1989. So that's why I don't know either of those, and not from the Bay Area. I'm just screwing up left and right. Funny thing though, I found this like at a craft store one time, and this is real mirror. This is like little mirror squares. And I thought I was so clever, right? How adorable that I'm going to just circle this with mirrors, because other side of the mirror, get it? I cannot, there's probably literally blood on this, because I cannot tell you how sharp these little bastards are on the corner. Just one slice after another, because it came in strips, but even like when you're trying to hold it and trying to glue it down and stuff like that, and you can see I just kind of made an error here, but it was a labor of love, that is for damn sure, because it was brutal putting this thing together. These little things are so sharp inside here, but it looked cool. Thought it was a really neat idea. This was a cool full page ad, probably in Billboard magazine or something like that, but again, for the Other Side of the Mirror album. I really like these full page ads, especially, before, when I was getting into collecting and photos and stuff like that, and having those things, because, I didn't have photos. We didn't have eBay. I didn't know about, buying pictures at stores and stuff like that. I mean, I learned that pretty quick, but, so getting the ones that we got in magazines, and it was one thing to get the clippings and such, but getting the full page articles was just so cool, just that big picture. Speaking of really cool things, this is one of my prized possessions. Have you heard that before? This was a really unique and very rare photo of Stevie at her listening party, if I'm not mistaken, where she did kind of like a theme. I think it's not a listening party. Listening party was her dressed up as Alice, and she had Billy Idol and a whole bunch of people there. Pardon me. This was a Halloween party, big word I was looking for, that she had. And this is Stevie Nicks and Bruce Hornsby. And here we have that dress that she's wearing on the cover, but she's got a brunette wig on. And I'm telling you, I don't know about you guys, but I just think it's very becoming of her, kind of a red brunette. And it just gives that dress an entirely different look than it does on the cover. But this is a very rare, very unique photo. And again, one that just is one of my all-time favorites, just for its uniqueness. And I would love to see more from this, but having this, basically kind of like a portrait photo of Stevie is just really a great thing. Really, really like this one. Here, oh, look, it appears we did have the long box in parts, I guess. So, and I was right, it is the back cover. Interesting point, this one is a sticker. I think this one is the sticker, and this one is a postcard, legitimate, like promo. Well, I don't know if they're promo, because they don't say, like, they're not issued by, what would it be? Modern Records. But, one shows like the postcard part on the back and Stevie Nicks and something like that. And the other actually has nothing other than a sticker thing. But I've assumed that possibly the sticker was issued by the record company, postcard maybe not, but just really neat things to have from then. Again, a photo that not ever one of my favorites, but I love that dress. Love that dress. Some more miscellaneous stuff from the album. This was probably cut out of a record sleeve, I would imagine. I have no idea. This doesn't feel thick. It does kind of feel thick. I don't know. Probably just another Xerox cut out from the inside of the record. This is just paper. The little article in here is Other Side of the Mirror that I'm gonna guess is reviewed by the look of it and stuff like that. I'm gonna guess like Rock Express or one of those magazines I've talked about. Not Pulse. Tower Records had Pulse magazine, but like Sam Goody had their own magazine, and Musicland had theirs, etc. And I want to say it's from Rock Express, which I think was put out by Musicland or Sam Goody, one of those. And then this little blurb up here, with Stevie Bean at the Shoreline. Now this says August 15th. So I just don't know. I know for a fact that she was in the Bay. We had to go to another show, and it was prolonged. It was delayed. Either it was delayed or we just had to go an alternate way. She decided that it was safe enough to perform for that show. So this was kind of a weird wrap I did of the, I didn't know, again, how to display it or what best to do, but this was a handkerchief that was for sale at the concert. And I'm not sure, this one could well be mine. I've had a few of them over the years. I don't remember mine ever having blemishes or anything like that, any stains, but I just thought this looked kind of cool. I just kind of folded it over a piece of paper and kind of tucked it so that it would, could be shown. I have this, which actually I should have talked about for the 1988 part, because this was, Never Break the Chain, a Fleetwood Mac. This is like a scarf, but they're just, you can't always see that kind of stuff. And this one could be kind of folded up and put in the scrapbook. So I thought that worked. Then you can see the other side of it with the hologram that came out at that time. Now, I don't remember, I think I must have talked about the hologram maybe a couple times, because I know that it got issued with the vinyl and CD and cassette. And I probably also pulled this down, but just in case, and I just wish I could remember. I'm so sorry, I have the worst memory. But in talking about it, I know that I might have mentioned that there were several sizes. There was obviously kind of the small, almost like a complete circle that I believe was on the CD or the cassette. And then in the CD, it was more like an oval. And in the album, I think it was like a larger square. Maybe the oval was kind of like in a square and, kind of on the foil. But some years ago, a girl that was a massive collector in Germany somehow got contact with somebody who had like boxes of them in an old warehouse. And there was just a ton of them. And the odd thing about them is that they were in multiple sizes. I mean, some were, this is quite a bit larger, as you can see. And this is not the size that came with the album. That's no doubt about it, or the CD or the cassette. And none of them just seemed to be the same. They all kind of had like how they got the rainbow as a different way, kind of how you change them around with a different look. Of course, I'm getting terrible light on that, but none of them were exactly the same. And there's this one I have, and you'll see them. I think there's a couple more in some of the other pages, but then this was one of them with the least amount of issues I had framed in green. Shocking. Ugh, it's so bright to begin with, so it's really hard. But it just looks even different from this one, which is funny because it's the same thing. But just everyone just kind of looks different. And I know it's because of how you turn it and what you do. Ugh, that light is terrible for this. But you get the idea. But that pretty green, I just thought really, captured some of the green colors that were in there. But so this one is about, I'd say, 6 by 6 in size. And I guess that would be the same size. No, because that's still a little bit bigger, as you can see. Because this got cut down a little bit. This one is still behind. This is in kind of a frame already, like matted, pre-matted. I didn't do this, and it's all it's connected in there. And so just really cool. And again, if you either haven't seen the video or didn't know, there is one that's out there that was huge, like I guess like a portrait size, like a 11 by 17 or 20 by, it's huge. It's really large. hologram, and I would kill for that. And there's one. There's, to my knowledge, there's just one. Like even in that warehouse with that person who found that, somehow that, you know, you would think that if they're going to make one in like a large way, and there's proof of it because somebody had a photo of it in a shop window in the UK, which is where these came out of. And, you know, I'm sure there's forms of Photoshop, you know, in '89 and stuff like that. But this was, you know, somebody took a picture of it in a window. And I don't think somebody would go through all the effort to, you know, work on that back in 1989. But I've never seen it since. Never heard of anybody who's like, oh no, I'm the owner of that. Nothing. But even with all those ones that got found in a warehouse, how really large ones of them, you know, weren't found, or even as press samples or something like that. I'm really kind of surprised, but I'm very grateful for the ones that I have. I was going to end on that, but I forgot. I guess I had stuff on the other side of this one with all the copied stuff. These were just some old passes that I had. A little Ghent. See, this one says, yeah, 1017 Concord Pavilion. I'm not wrong. So that would have been the night of the earthquake. So she would have had the 1017, 1018 in Sacramento, and 1020 at Shoreline. So I want to say that I went to Shoreline. So she had to have canceled Concord, possibly canceled Sacramento, although Sacramento was far enough away, she might have done that. And then she might have stayed for the 1020 show because it was just safe enough. But we were having like aftershock after aftershock. It was a scary time. And it's so crazy that we just had I can't even math. The 1989, go figure, a long time ago, the anniversary of that. And yeah, that we just made it to that show is something else. This was a clipping from a magazine. It's kind of a unique. I think I might have shown another copy of that in a different magazine I had, and maybe that picture is a little bit larger in a magazine from the UK. And then this was a really pretty picture, an unusual one of Stevie. Unfortunately, it was cut like that. Like it seems like I had to take it apart like that or something. But that also was out of Rock Express or something. I think there was a Tango in the Night issue, and this is one of the small pictures that's inside that magazine. And that's the only place I've ever seen this picture. And then again, just lots of the Bay Area cutouts. Every time I'd find one different. The Hooters, I've this much recollection of the Hooters opening, you know, but they had that big song and we danced. And I recall them being okay. And I recall not really knowing much about them or anything like that, but I've kind of maybe sort of kept up with them a little bit since. And then just, you know, the 45 cut up. So that's the beginning of Other Side of the Mirror. Plenty more to come. Plenty more where that came from. And I hope you enjoyed that. And join me next time. We'll see you later. Have a good night.